Welcome to Blue Talks.
I'm really excited to be here today. I went to school about an hour and a half away from here, and Cambridge University was always somewhere that we aspired to go and study. Well, I may not have been here to study, but today I'm here to speak. Okay, got a question for you. What's important to you? I mean, really important. In this fast-paced modern world with focus on the short term and instant gratification, these are questions we rarely take time to reflect on. I'm wondering though, for anybody who's lived and worked and travelled in Australia, Europe, Asia, 20 kilos is a regular luggage limit for the airlines in those areas. But can 20 kilos really carry all we need to soothe body, mind, and spirit and still live a life of abundance? In the 1940s, rationing was all the rage. Well, the war raged, and rations were a way of life. People stockpiled what they could when they could, not knowing if there would be another opportunity. A bit like the toilet paper and hand sanitizer in the wars of 2020. Seriously though, old habits die hard. And my parents lived through those rationing years and adopted mantras such as, can't afford it, do without. Oh, don't throw it away, it'll come in handy one day. That's what I grew up hearing. Not only was I brought up in a family of hoarders, I also married into one. The thing is, dying hard can sometimes grip us hard. And I lost 4 people closest to me in the space of a few short years. Not only did I inherit their emotional baggage, I also inherited, well, all their actual baggage. In-laws, outlaws, late husband, all checked out in a very short space of time. Life had never seemed so unpredictable. Sorting through their stuff, I made a few discoveries. I discovered life was too short, and I couldn't keep all this stuff. Oh, and I also discovered how much a black and white TV license cost in 1971, just after we went decimal in the UK. It's £6 in new money, in case you were interested. Discarding their personal belongings, their worldly goods, meaningful to them, but to no other. I realized that my life had not been quite so worldly wise, and my ambition, my dream of traveling was fueled by, well, quite frankly, not knowing how long any of us have got left. My first task, to shrink down from 3 homes to just 30 medium-sized boxes on my journey to no fixed abode. As we're more and more familiar with traveling these days, we can travel all around the world. We're familiar and comfortable with packing for business trips, packing for trips away, packing for leisure, holidays. And I wonder, How many of us have forgotten a significant item, such as a toothbrush? But you're not exactly going to travel halfway around the world to go and find that again, are you? Truth is, though, we really can't take everything. A friend once said, we start with nothing, we end with nothing. Do we really need everything in the middle? Who's heard of Marie Kondo? You know, she of the, does this bring me joy? Well, I kind of did something like that myself, only my question was, are you coming to the other side of the world with me? Pretty much for every item in the house. In short, you've got to know when to hold and when to fold. Significant items went in my container en route to Australia. Now, I lived in Perth for 10 years and lived in 2 homes with my half container of worldly goods. And yes, I admit that I accumulated a bit more on the way. But now it was time for my next chapter. I was going to live out of a suitcase. I had 6 weeks to shrink 10 years of accumulation. Not the 9 months I'd given myself before. But it was time for my next adventure. I was going to go and live outside of Australia. Malaysia, that was my first stop. Kuala Lumpur, the hot, steamy, humid capital city, was to be my home for the next 4 months. It was time to shrink again. Shrink down all my stuff. Now, I could put some things in store, not knowing if I'd ever go back to the store, or even if the cost of storage outweighed the cost of the individual items. And I'm wondering how many people have gone back to them years later and realised that same thing. The target was set, 20 kilos. Just 44 pounds. Now, treasured items, I wasn't going to let go of particularly emotionally attached items such as family photos and my flute. But they didn't belong in my daily luggage limit of just 20 kilos. Fragile things were left in Perth, and along with my books that I was lending out to friends, on the understanding that they would use them and they wouldn't go to waste. Kind of knowing that I might not see them again. So shrinking down, what do you take? Well, it's like grabbing and saving stuff when you know a bushfire's heading in your direction, or reaching out for things on a sinking ship, giving yourself only moments to decide. What was I going to take? This was important. Discarding these physical reminders of emotional memories, but not without taking a digital photo first, a souvenir of the life I was leaving behind. Now, there were some things I couldn't not pack. Laptop, chargers, tools for talks. Okay, well, that's 4 kilos. The bag itself, well, that weighs 3 kilos when empty. Okay, well, what else did I need? Networking gear, business attire. But I'm not going to be working all the time. So leisure wear, swimwear, activewear. Uh-oh. My 20 kilos was filling up rapidly, and I was becoming increasingly aware of all I would need to let go of. Jumpers. Now, jumpers was something I didn't need in KL. But I was going back to Melbourne in midwinter, 4 months later. But I don't need to take them with me. I can get them in Melbourne and then be ready to let them go again when I moved on, if they didn't fit into my life at that point. I realised that from here on in, anything I bought would be temporary. Only the absolute essentials belonged in my bag. Only the absolute essentials for that leg of my journey, or maybe even the next one. There you go. Body sorted. Now, it was time to think about my mind. What were those things that I was thinking of and could let go of? Now, I'm a firm believer that words have power. I call our thoughts internal scripts. You know, the software you run in your life. What are the stories you're telling yourself? Some people refer to them as limiting beliefs. I don't, because not all of them are limiting. Some of them are affirming, empowering even. But my insistence on holding to the old, that was the biggest, heaviest burden of all. It weighed on me way more than 20 kilos ever could. It was time to let go of the emotional excess baggage. The mantras of old. It was not wartime, even if I felt war-torn. See, my thinking had gone through some survival shrinkage. Having lost all these people, I felt the need for stability, certainty. Where was I living at all times? You know, the base level of Maslow's triangle? Except I had to let that go. In the 10 years I lived in Perth, I had 2 homes. In the last 5 months, I've lived in 9 different places. Whew. Now, if you'd said a few months ago, even 9 months ago, this is what I'd be doing, dotting around from place to place, I'd have said, no, not a chance, I can't handle that. But I'm in Airbnb land now. I've got to let go. I have no choice. Life goes on, regardless of the baggage you have. I realized that being adaptable was what was necessary, because that internal script of having to know exactly where I was at all times had kept me in a box, literally with a roof over my head. Well, okay, that bit, but that firm determination, that control issue, that I had to let go of. I now am flexible and fluid in where I live. I am now officially of no fixed abode. I've often been complimented on the fact I don't look my age. Thank you, I'll take that. Pride in how I look, pride in how my health is going. I was living in a country where I didn't know the health system, and my control issues meant that I didn't ask for help. In the space of 4 months, I lost 6 kilos. That's nearly 13 pounds. To put some context on that, almost 1/3 the weight of my suitcase contents. Or honestly, what felt like my entire bodily contents. Let's just say my world fell out of my bottom. Enough said. So the lesson here? I had my sense of control, that internal script I was running was, I'm all right. I can handle this, I'm fine. Except clearly I wasn't. I found a GP to give me a blood screen, and she called me back urgently the day after. And as I'm getting there, she's typing out a referral letter to take to emergency. And that was where I had to go straight away. Because if these results were accurate, then the next 12 hours were crucial to my long-term health. So what? At this point, my I can handle it script was resourceful in keeping me calm, because it was my heart they were concerned about. I rock up to the hospital, and having been asked 3 times, "You all right? How's your breathing? Any heart palpitations?" I was really digging into that. I can handle this. The receiving doctor in the emergency department looked at me and uttered a line I will never forget. If these results are accurate, well, let's just say they're incompatible with life. Pardon? They said, "I don't think they can be accurate. I mean, you're clearly very much alive. Let's do a retest." An hour later, the results came back. Reassured, I returned home. Lesson in all of this: sometimes my "I can handle this" script was resourceful, and other times not so. I had to learn when to hold and when to fold. I had to let go of that pride in my health to learn when to ask for help. Asking for help was not a sign of weakness. That script was dumped. Okay, so now we've looked at body and we've looked at mind. What about the spiritual side of life? Without the environmental cues around you, I'm going to ask you, how would you maintain your relationship with whomever you consider to be your higher power? Relationships are really important to me, and I wanted to connect with people who share my belief system, because here I am basing myself in Malaysia, where the environmental cues religiously were predominantly Muslim and Hindu. Now, I'm a Christian. So what was I going to do? What was the spiritual baggage I chose to keep? What was it that was important to me? What could I let go? So as I said, the relationships were important to me, connecting with people who had a similar belief to me. Relationships up and out. That's the most important thing for me. It was about consciously choosing what I was going to focus on. What was important for me to let go and hold on to. And yes, there were some practices I let go of, and there were some that I doubled down on, particularly when letting go of the emotional baggage. Because were there going to be any cues that I would take with me? Anything from home? Because whatever it was would have to fit in that 20 kilos. And yes, I did. I took my Bible with me. I mentioned environmental cues from home. One of the things I discovered was that I'm at home anywhere, because my home is me. When I'm at peace with myself, I'm at home with me, anywhere in the world. I may be of no fixed abode physically, but I know where I am in myself. So I'm going to ask you again, body, mind, spirit, what's important for you? Has anything I've said resonated with you? Got you thinking a bit more? What about the emotional, the physical baggage you can let go of? What do you really need? What can you let go of? And the emotional stuff. What do you need to let go of? Or keep, whichever's working for you. And lastly, the spiritual side of life. Again, what's important for you? See, we all have a story. We all have baggage. Freedom comes from releasing what weighs us down, letting go of that emotional stuff, physical stuff. As I write my new book, looking forward into my life has never been so uncluttered. I wouldn't have believed it possible. I'm a globe-trotting co-author, co-owner of a publishing firm. And we help authors to get published from wherever I may wander, wherever I may roam, and then to help them go from page to stage, to share their message, to speak their truth, and find the freedom they crave, all while carrying less than 20 kilos.